if I came to you, Dr. Baker, and I said, look, can you have a look at this, please? And he said, what's the problem? I said, my mouth is bleeding. Oh, look at all these cuts inside here. What would you say to me? Come on, let's have a sort of a bit of a scenario. What would you say to me?
If you had a bunch of cuts in your mouth?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you'd have to want, well, what are you eating? What, have you had some trauma to it?
Well, I'm chewing razor blades.
Yeah. Well, that seems like something not a good idea. Yeah.
Okay. So what do you recommend?
Stop chewing the razor blades. How would that start?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So in sorry to do that to you. I hope you'll forgive me. What I'm trying to say here is that I came to the realization that I was self-harming. And if I was cutting myself with razor blades or sticking nails in my arms or, jumping off the roof and breaking my legs and then go to hospital, getting my legs fixed and doing it again, people say, what's the matter with you? You're crazy or what? And so I was self-harming with food. And that's what we do. We are self-harming. We're screwing up our own lives, our own wonderful God-given bodies. The Bible tells me that we're fearfully and wonderfully made. And it tells in the Bible that we should not do anything to damage our bodies, but we'll put that to one side for now. But we're self-harming. And why would we want to do something stupid like that? So we've got to wake up and come to the realization that if it works, it can't be wrong. If it doesn't work, it can't be right. And I don't think that the diet that is out there today, the way that people are advised to eat, it's not working. It's working for somebody. Somebody's making a pretty penny out of it. Ain't me. But having said that, we're self-harming and come to that realization, would you want to self-harm? Not really, no.
Yeah, and that's kind of the definition of addiction is, something that's harmful to you, but you continue to do it regardless. And I think that the problem is I think a lot of people are unaware. I mean, because we all have to eat. It's not like, you have to drink alcohol, but everybody that lives on earth pretty much has to eat something. And so if you don't know what is causing harm and what's not, sometimes it's hard to figure out. So a lot of people are ignorant to the fact that they're harming themselves through food. I mean, some of it's obvious, if you spend all day eating, crisps and biscuits and, cakes and ice creams and things like that, most people understand it. But a lot of the stuff we just don't realize is harmful to us. You said you're somewhere in your 70s, or how old are you now, Treflyn?
76.
76. So you've been around a while enough to see how the diet has changed in Wales and over the years. What have you seen? Like back when you were, a younger person, a kid, how has the diet? Has it changed dramatically today?
I think so. I mean, along this journey, I bought a book about the Atkins diet. I went to a group over here called Slimming World. I don't know if you have them over there. So I've done all that bit, trying to cut down on food. I hadn't got a clue about how our bodies worked in terms of metabolizing food. Now, I've got an engineering background, so I'm very technically minded. And I understand, and I know exactly that the calorie is the amount of heat required to raise 1 gram of water through 1 degree centigrade. But I couldn't ever understand how they could put calories in terms of food any more than you could say this apple's got so many horsepowers in it, or so many joules in it, or so many whatever else unit of energy you want to use. And so I think bringing calories into food is in my mind, it's ridiculous because you can't eat a calorie. And I made a video on YouTube, and you can watch it on the Warrington Low Carbohydrate group. It's called "Can You Eat a Calorie?" And so we've got to understand that trying to measure our foods or saying that you're eating too many calories it's just bunkum, right? And if that offends anybody, then I don't mean to do that. But having said that, we've got to be real. And as a child, every meal that I had a pile of bread and butter by the side of it, and that was the way I was brought up. My mother just fed us. My mother was short and fat. And my sister, she was short and fat. My father was short but slim. And my brother, as far as I know, is still slim. But the food then, it was totally different. We used to play out a lot, which kids don't do these days. So I suppose we were active. But I've learned since then that you can run around the field for as long as you want. And you won't lose any weight because you're going to have to stop and eat. And you'll probably fill up on all the stuff that that got you there in the first place, you know. So I think our diet today is bonkers. I think the way that the NHS over here in the UK advocate what they call the eat well plate is bonkers. I think that's it's a shame that doctors aren't trained in nutrition. That's bonkers. And it takes people like Joanne McCormack and Dr. David Unwin and yourself and lots of other people out there who I think are giving out the real information. And people should, you know, wake up and take notice. I do this not out to gain, but I just want to help people who want to help themselves. But if they don't want to help themselves, then crack on. You know, don't bother me. But I'll do everything I can to help you and to give people good advice. Which is, in my mind, if your advice isn't based upon evidence or experience, then it isn't worth anything. You know. But I'm always willing to listen because I always run the risk of learning something.
Yeah, I wanted just an interesting question. You know, you mentioned your mother was short and fat and your father was lean, and presumably they ate the same food living in the same house. So was there a difference between the way you may not even remember, maybe did your dad eat more of whatever and your mom eat more of this or that?
Well, I think my mum was at home all day, so she would eat more, obviously. Okay. And when I went to school as a child, my mum would give me packed sort of a box, or no, it wasn't a box, it was just sandwiches wrapped, because I used to come home on a train. And so before I came home for my meal, I would be eating food at 3:30 in the afternoon because they made these sandwiches for me. And so I was used to snacking, you know, and food was always available. There was always bread and butter, even if we were having potatoes, you know, as we call over here, a Sunday lunch, the same as you would have maybe for your Christmas dinner, you know, chicken or meat or whatever, with all the vegetables. But there'll be bread and butter on the table always, and then rice pudding. And my mum was always baking cakes and pies. So I was just brought up to eat all that stuff, you know.
And as a child, were you overweight? I mean, when did you start? How old were you when you started to feel like you were overweight?
Well, I was always, if you like, chubby. I was never, lean and slim and that, you know. I always had sort of moobs and a little bit of a belly. But I became sort of fat, I would say, in my 40s, you know, what I would call really fat, not caring, you know, boozing and, you know, throwing the pints down my neck and eating all the wrong food and doing all the wrong stuff, you know.
Yeah.